Hello, my tie-dyers, fandom lovers, and fanfiction readers and writers. I am going to be reading parts 8 through 14 of Beauty and the Chocolatier. So, without any further ado, let's get started because this is going to be a long one. Then he smelled smoke. He ran towards where it was coming from. He saw humongous flames and little people running and screaming. He acted fast. There was no time to mess around. He ran towards the little people. "Quick, follow me," he said while waving his hand. The little people followed without any question. He guided them safely away from the fire. He looked behind him. He was astonished that he saw thousands of them. He stopped and turned around. They all stopped as well. "Well, that was something, wasn't it?" he asked them. He looked at them. "You guys are not much of a talker, huh?" he said in a gentle voice. They just looked at him. Willie didn't ever see people like this before. A small voice said, "We have never seen your kind before." Willie turned his head. There was a small person about 5 inches away from his knee. "I don't want to be rude, but is there a chance you're African pygmies?" asked Willie. "We are," replied another voice, but lower. "Ah, I am Willie. I am from France," said Willie. "We are the Oompa Loompas. We have been here for a long time," replied an Oompa Loompa. "Say, have you guys seen a small river?" he asked. "Yes, we have," replied another Oompa Loompa. "What is it?" asked Willie. It is the Fountain of Youth," replied the same Oompa Loompa. "And if I wanted to take a little bit, is that okay?" he asked. "It's okay with us," said an Oompa Loompa. "But I am here for something else," he said. "What is it?" asked another Oompa Loompa. "I'm here for the cocoa beans," he replied. "Oh, we know where they are," said another Oompa Loompa. "Really? Can you show me?" asked Willie. "Sure, come on," said the Oompa Loompa. Willie followed the little Oompa Loompa. They walked not far nor close to where they were. There were a lot of grown shrubs and a lot of vegetation around. It astonished Willie how long these little people stayed alive for so long. He started to have an attachment towards these little people. Still, he wanted to take them back to France, not as slaves, but as a family. He could offer them to work for him, but he didn't want them to be slaves to him. They got closer to the location where the cocoa trees were. He was watching the little man, guiding him and knowing what he was doing. He had a heart, and he wanted to bring them back so that Belle could see them. She had the biggest heart that nobody could understand. Finally, they were at the location. It was an open area, but there were tall trees with cocoa beans. This is what Willie came for. He knelt down to the Oompa Loompas. He says, "I have a proposal for you," he said. The Oompa Loompa looked at him. "What is it?" asked the Oompa Loompa. "I can take those trees and I can protect them and you guys as well," replied Willie. "Let me take you back to the others," said the Oompa Loompa. "All right, let's go back," said Willie. They walked back to where the other Oompa Loompas are at. Willie got his machete out. He was looking at any wild animals around. They got back to the other Oompa Loompas. They were looking at Willie. "Thank God you guys are still safe," said Willie. "Tell them what you told me," said the Oompa Loompa. "Well, I said that I can take the cocoa trees back with me and you guys can come with me," said Willie. "Are you going to make us slaves?" asked one of the Oompa Loompas. "What? No, I can pay you," replied Willie. "We don't want to be paid," said a Oompa Loompa. "Well, what do you want?" asked Willie. "We want to be a family," replied an Oompa Loompa. "We can be a family and we can wait for me," said Willie. "Well, you did save us," said an Oompa Loompa. Hours later, they made an agreement that Willie will protect them and the cocoa beans. He started to get the trees together. Now it was getting dark, and some Oompa Loompas got wood and sticks to build a fire. Willie standing and watching over the Oompa Loompas taking care of each other. He was thinking about Belle. He missed her so much, more than anyone can imagine. He was thinking about Belle. He missed her so much, more than anyone could imagine. He could see her with her yellow dress and her red lips. He could kiss them all day if she'd let him. He glanced back at the Oompa Loompas. There were more than one fire going on, and there were a lot of them. He started to walk around watching them. Most of them were asleep, but some were awake. Willie sighs and says, "Belle, I wish you were here with me." "Who is Belle?" asked an Oompa Loompa. "She's a friend," replied Willie. "It seems she is more than a friend," said an Oompa Loompa. "She is my best friend, and she's my best friend, and," said Willie. "And?" asked the Oompa Loompa. "I have feelings for her," replied Willie. "Oh, you like her?" said the Oompa Loompa. "Yes," said Willie. Can you tell me more about her? Asked the Oompa Loompa. "Well, she's the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, and she is the most friendly person ever, and she has a heart full of love and care," said Willie. "Wow, will she like us?" asked the Oompa Loompa. "Of course she will. Now I think you should get some sleep," replied Willie. "Okay, how about you?" said the Oompa Loompa. "Don't worry about me, I'm going to watch over you guys," said Willie. "Okay, see you in the morning," said the Oompa Loompa. "Yep," said Willie. Of the Oompa Loompas. So now it's the bad side comes out. Belle was sitting on the couch. She was upset with Wilbur. He let these 3 people come into their lives. She feels she has broken Willie's trust, even though he doesn't know what's going on. She has never felt like this before. She wants Willie to come back home. Todd and Ichabod were the only ones that truly know how Belle felt. She felt hopeless. The day was gloomy like always. It seems like that since Willie has gone to college. She felt an emptiness inside her, a feeling she never felt before. She looked around for similar surroundings, but didn't. Is this what being lonely feels like? She said to herself. She looked at the front door, hoping a familiar presence came into the door. Todd and Ichabod both came in. They stood in front of Belle. How are you holding up? Asked Todd. Not so good, replied Belle. I can tell you are not yourself, said Ichabod. Do you think things won't change? Asked Belle. I hope not, said Ichabod. Belle stood up. She went downstairs and went into her bedroom. She sat on the bed thinking about Willie. After all, this room used to be Willie's before he went to college. Belle laid back and closed her eyes. She was dreaming about Willie and how he had told her he missed her. She wanted him for herself, even though it might be selfish. She could help it. The night continued and everyone was asleep. The next morning, Belle got up. She got dressed and brushed her hair. She walked down the hallway even though she didn't want to. She didn't want to see those people. She slowly continued down the hallway. She made her way down the stairs, but stopped when she heard Hildegard. Wilbur, do you think Belle should move out? She asked. Hildegard, I can't do that to Belle. I took her in when she was born, replied Wilbur. Do it for me, said Hildegard. No, let me think about it, said Wilbur. Belle put her back against the wall. She didn't know what to say or think. Wilbur was always a fatherly figure to her. What will he think? She was always the princess here. They used to call her that. Why? She thought to herself. She slowly walked to the kitchen. She didn't want anyone to hear. Then she heard Hansel and Gretel fighting. Not again, she said. She made her way to the kitchen. Belle grabbed herself breakfast and sat down. She started eating. Wilbur was in his office, thinking about what Hildegard suggested. He couldn't do that to Belle, his little princess. He didn't want to think what Willie would say. Willie would disown him if he hears anything bad happens to Belle. He looked at a picture of Belle and Willie. They both looked so happy together. Then Hildegard came into the office. Wilbur quickly put the picture of Belle and Willie away. He looked at Hildegard. Oh, hey dear, said Wilbur. Hey dear, what are you doing? Asked Hildegard. Just working, replied Wilbur. Just working? Well, did you think about it? Asked Hildegard. Yes, I can't do that to Belle, replied Wilbur. Fine, said Hildegard. The day went on and Belle was reading a book. This is the only time she is happy. Reading is her favorite hobby ever. She has read so many books that she has earned the bookworm title. She lifted her head to see if anyone was around. Luckily, she didn't see anyone. She continued to read and then Hildegard came into the room. Belle tried not to notice her. Hildegard crossed her arms. Hildegard shook her head at Belle reading a book. Like always, Belle had a stack of books next to her. Romance, horror, fantasy, and mystery. Those were her favorite genres. Belle closed the book that she had been reading She got up and put the book back on the bookshelf. She went back to the couch and grabbed her stack of books. Belle went upstairs and went into her bedroom. Belle went back downstairs and Wilbur's office door was opened. Belle walked towards the open door. "Father," she whispered. She went into the office, but he wasn't there. She went behind the desk and opened the compartment. She saw a picture of her and Willie. She was confused. Why did Father have a picture of me and Willie? She asked herself. She heard someone behind her. Belle turned around, and Wilbur was in the doorway. "Father, what are you doing? Father, what are you doing here? I thought you were gone," Belle asked. "It doesn't matter. You know that I don't like people being in my office," replied Wilbur in an angry tone. "Why do you have a picture of me and Willie?" Belle asked, having tears in her eyes. "That's none of your business. Now go to your room," Wilbur demanded. I wanted to know where you were," said Belle. "Go to your room now," said Wilbur angrily. Belle ran out of the office crying. She ran upstairs, shut her bedroom. She ran upstairs and shut her bedroom door. Belle didn't know what to do. Wilbur never got angry with her. He never yelled at her ever. She was scared. She didn't deserve this. What did she do wrong? "Oh, Willie, I wish you were here," she said to herself. She heard a knock at the door. She didn't want to think who would be on the side of the door. "Who is it?" she asked. "It's me, Hildegard. I need you to come downstairs for me," said Hildegard. "Okay," Belle replied. Even though she didn't want to, she went downstairs and Hildegard was sitting on the couch. She waves to Belle to come over. Belle walked towards the couch and sat down next to Hildegard. Hildegard ran through Belle's hair with her hands. Belle looked at her. Why was she being so loving? She looked down. "Do you know why I asked you to come downstairs?" asked Hildegard. Belle shook her head. "Well, your father fired the maid, and there's no one to clean the house right now. I know that you like helping around the house," said Hildegard. "So you're asking me to help around the house?" asked Belle. "Yes," replied Hildegard. "I can do that," said Belle. "Perfect. Now get ready for dinner," said Hildegard. "Okay," said Belle. Belle got up and went to get ready for dinner. Everyone sat down at the table. They all started eating, and Belle was looking at Wilbur. He had his head down. Belle was sitting between Ichabod and Todd. They were the only two that she felt safe. After dinner, Belle went upstairs. She went into her bedroom. Still, she was thinking about Willie. She missed him so much. She started to cry silently to herself. It's a talent that she taught herself. There was one more thing she didn't know. That thing was that there were more terrible things yet. to come. Suspense music! Alright, so now things get worse for Belle. The next morning, Belle got up. She got dressed. Okay. The next morning, Belle got up. She got dressed and went downstairs. She saw Hildegard sitting on the couch. Hansel and Gretel were outside, smelling the flowers. Belle went into the kitchen to get breakfast. Todd and Ichabod were doing work like always. She didn't know where Wilbur was. Maybe it was for the best. Belle continued eating. She got up and started to clean her dishes. She walked out of the kitchen. Hildegard stood up. She walked towards Belle. Belle looked at her. What did she need? Belle asked herself. Is there something wrong? Belle asked in a monotone voice. No, I wanted to know if you remember what we talked about last night, replied Hildegard. Yes, said Belle. Can you get started? Asked Hildegard. Yes, said Belle. Belle went upstairs and started to make everyone's bed. Then she did the laundry and put the clothes away. Also, she washed the floors and she also made the table for dinner. She puts books away and then cleans windows. She even got the mail. She also was the one who got the door when there was someone there. Everything seems to be going well for Belle until one day things took a turn for the worse. Suspense. Wilbur started to ignore her and stopped talking to her. She didn't get it. Had she done something wrong? She didn't know that it hurt her feelings. She wished Willie was here with her. She didn't like that she was alone. Thankfully, she had time thinking about him when she was cleaning. Even though she had Todd and Ichabod, they were on business, so she couldn't talk to them even if she wanted to. She continued to clean until she heard Hansel and Gretel coming in through the house. She tried to ignore them, but they were standing in front of her. They both took off their shoes and put them in front of her. She tried not to notice. She looked up. What do you want? Belle asked, annoyed. Me and Gretel made a little mess, replied Hansel, pointing at the mud at the front door. Very well, I will clean it up, said Belle. Belle got up and went to the mud pile. She knelt down and started to clean it up. While she was cleaning it up, she overheard Hansel and Gretel talking about her. The things she heard broke her heart. She heard that they want her gone. Not to mention they are going to steal her father from her. She tried to keep herself from crying, but tears slid down her cheeks. She really wanted Willie now. She wanted to burst out crying. But she couldn't. Just then, Wilbur came into the house. He didn't pay any attention to Belle. He walked to his office. Belle got up and walked towards his office. She stopped and slowly walked in. Wilbur looked up. "What do you want?" he asked. "Father, it's me, Belle," Belle answered. "Belle, aren't you supposed to be cleaning?" he asked. "Well, I finished," Belle exclaimed. Well, I don't know why you came into here," said Wilbur. I wanted what?" asked Wilbur. "Spend time with you," Belle answered in a quiet voice. "Time with me? I don't have time for you, so go," said Wilbur. Belle turned around and walked out. She started to think about Willie. She knew if Willie knows what's going on, he would be furious with Wilbur. She quietly said, "Willie." Wilbur looked up. "What did you say?" he asked. "Willie," she repeated. She turned around and walked towards Wilbur. "I said, Willie," she answered in an angry tone. "Who is Willie?" he asked. "Willie is your son and my best friend," she answered in a louder tone. "Young lady, don't raise your voice," said Wilbur. "Or what? Punish me?" she said. "If Willie sees this, what will he think?" she asked. "He won't," Wilbur said. "Why?" Belle asked with tears in her eyes. "Because he is not coming back," answered Wilbur. "How would you know, huh? Tell me," Belle said. "Because it's been 6 years since he went to college. He is maybe married to a wife and has children," replied Wilbur. "No, you're lying. He wouldn't do that. He went to college to become the most famous chocolatier," Belle said, tears running down her face. Belle started to run out of his office. She ran out the door, tears streaming down her face. She got onto a water fountain surrounded by rock. She sat on top of one of the big rocks. She was still crying. Just then, Gaston saw her. He walked over to her. Why was she crying? He sat next to her. He looked around. No one was nearby. He saw LeFou walking by. He waves to him to come over. LeFou looks at Belle, then at Gaston. Belle realizes that 2 men were there. She realizes it's Gaston and LeFou. For once, she gave a smile. It was nice to see faces that looked caring. She hugged both of them. Gaston and LeFou were confused. Why was she being nice to them? After a few minutes of Belle calming down, she was able to tell Gaston and LeFou what's going on. LeFou helped Belle clean up her tears. Gaston was still confused about why she was upset. "May I ask why you are crying?" asked Gaston. "Well, it's a long story," Belle replied. "We can handle it," said LeFou. "Okay, now let's start with my aunt and uncle. It took me when Willie was on the train to England. Then Frank, my uncle, tried to rape me. But he didn't. I ran away. Then a beast kidnapped me. He made me fall in love with him to turn back into a human. He cheated on me, so I went back to Willie's father's house. Everything was okay until Hildegard came along. She made me the maid and made Wilbur mean towards me. I got into a fight with him, and here I am telling you guys my story, exclaimed Belle. Wow, I'm so sorry, said Gaston. Yes, is there anything we can do? Asked LeFou. Well, there's one thing, replied Belle. What is it? Asked Gaston. Do any of you know about Willie or what he's doing? Asked Belle. Willie? Yes, I got a letter from him, said Gaston. Gaston handed Belle the letter. She opens it. Her eyes wide and tears run down her face. Gaston and LeFou didn't know if it was tears of sadness or tears of happiness. Happiness, whatever they are. She was crying. She was crying uncontrollably. She hugs both of them. Thank you, she said. Belle gets up and walks back home to her apartment. Willie was coming home. An evil smile came to her lips, for she knew Wilbur was going to be sorry for what he did. She made it back home. She went upstairs and she got ready for bed. Wilbur didn't know why Belle ignored the fact that they were eating dinner. At night, Wilbur slowly walked into Belle's bedroom. He quietly opened her door and walked in. He saw a faint smile on Belle's face. He came closer, and he was Belle holding something. He was still confused about what, and Belle had a smile on her face. Wasn't she still upset about the fight they had earlier? He slowly and quietly got the letter from Belle. He slowly opened it. What he saw terrified him. He noticed the handwriting anywhere. It was Willie's. He slowly set it down to the floor. Tears ran down his face. He read the letter and looked at Belle. He got close to the end of the letter. It was made clear that Willie wanted Belle to meet him at the train station. It also states if anything happened to Belle when he was gone, he will show them respect. To make things worse for Wilbur, Willie comes home tomorrow. He continues to cry. He didn't realize it, but he woke up Belle. Belle slowly opens her eyes. Father, why are you in my room? She asked sleepily. Belle, is this true? Asked Wilbur. What's true? Give me that, said Belle, taking it from him. So it's true then. Willie is coming back tomorrow, said Wilbur. Belle nods her head. Look, don't tell Willie, please, said Wilbur. Why should I? You were the one who he was married and had 2 children, exclaimed Belle. Felt I was angry, Willie said with tears in his eyes. I want you to get those 3 out of our lives, exclaimed Belle. Done, said Wilbur. Wilbur hugs Belle. I promise you they will be gone out of our lives tomorrow, said Wilbur. Next, it's the arrival of Willie, chapter 11. The next morning, Belle woke up. She remembered Willie was coming home today. A smile came on her face. She got out of bed and got undressed. She put on his and Willie's favorite dress. It was yellow. She was so excited to see Willie. Her heart filled with joy. She put on red lipstick, but that's it. She heard Wilbur and Hildegard arguing. I must have told her what's going on. Belle started to walk downstairs. Both Wilbur and Hildegard looked at her. Wilbur smiled at her. Belle continued to walk towards the door. Where do you think you are going? Asked Hildegard. To see my best friend at the train station, answered Belle with a smirk. Belle opened the door and walked out. She was proud of herself. She saw Todd and Ichabod. In the carriage waiting for her. They come back for the arrival of Willie. She walked to the carriage. Ichabod helped her get in. Todd closed the door and told the man to go. She was happier than she was for 6 years. She saw a lot of people heading towards the train. Why though? It's only Willie, right? She didn't know. The carriage kept moving. Todd and Ichabod looked at Belle. Finally, the carriage made it to the train station. Belle started to blush. She hasn't seen Willie for 6 years. How would she know it's him? Todd and Ichabod noticed Belle's facial expression. They both looked at each other. Ichabod touched Belle's hand. Belle looked at him. Belle looked back at the window. What's wrong, Belle? Ichabod asked. Belle looked back at him. Willie, she replied quietly. Now they both knew why Belle had that facial expression. They know it's been 6 years Belle hasn't seen him. Don't worry, said Todd. You'll know it's him, added Ichabod. Belle gave them a small smile. The carriage was getting close to the train station. It turned into a lot of stations. Todd got out. He gave Belle a hand to get out of the carriage. Ichabod came out after. Belle looked around. There were so many people. Why were there so many people? Belle, Ichabod, and Todd walked towards the train tracks. Belle stopped behind the crowd. She was nervous to see Willie. Will he remember her? She started to feel uneasy. People were all over the place. She heard the engine of the train getting closer. People started to form a crowd around the train tracks. Belle was all the way back from the crowd. Todd and Ichabod were behind Belle. Everyone was talking and getting closer to the train tracks. The train was getting closer. Belle heard people talking about the president. Who is the president? Belle asked quietly. Who is the president? Belle asked quietly. She saw the train slowly stopping. The train stopped. The train conductor came out. He waved into the train. People started to come out. Belle tried to see who was coming out. It was hard to see, but no man looked like Willie. Belle started to get more anxious. Maybe Father was right. Willie didn't come home. Just then, Belle heard the train conductor. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of France. Belle's heart dropped. She slowly lifted her head. She was a man with a top hat and a cane, but he wasn't old, he was young. And well, could this man be Willie? No, it can't be. She saw the man looking in the crowd, almost like he was looking for a certain person. Who, though? Belle started to feel sad, but she didn't know why. He was looking, and then they made eye contact. Those eyes look familiar, Belle said. A smirk came to his face. Belle blushed. Todd put a hand on Belle's shoulder. He gave her a smile indicating it's Willie. Belle blushed and looked at the man in the top hat. That's Willie? asked Belle. Yes, replied Todd. Belle blushed even harder. That man who was the last person to get off the train was Willie. Belle was speechless. The letter Gaston gave her was real. It wasn't a false truth or a lie. Willie was here in the flesh. She wanted to run into his arms and hug him. Then she remembered what's going on at home. She put her head down. People cheered and screamed, "The president is here!" She wanted to run away. Hey, would Willie even want anything to do with her? He is the president of France and the most famous chocolatier. He won't want her. Now she is going too far. She started to walk away from the train station. Suddenly she felt a hand on her shoulder. She looked back and it was the man with a top hat. He had his cane in his left hand. She knew the man was Willie. But she didn't want to say anything. He looked so different. He had a burgundy-colored jacket on with grayish-purple gloves on. He had a black top hat on, wore a black shirt with a greenish red and yellow collar attached to his shirt, his black pants on, and black shoes with W's that were red. Belle blushed at him. Then she noticed the metal-shaped W on his collar. Every Wonka member has a metal-shaped W that they wear. Willie looked at Belle. He was curious why Belle wasn't saying anything. Didn't she know it was him? They were both looking at each other. People were standing around them. He noticed her looking up and down at him. She was beautiful. Her lips were red as a rose. Her eyes are a beautiful brown color. He couldn't wait to tell her how he felt. They were both staring at each other, wondering who was going to break the silence first. Belle spoke in a soft voice. Willie, is that you? Asked Belle. Willie shook his head and said, "Yes, it's me." "Ah, I see. You look," said Belle. "Different," said Willie, finishing her sentence. "Yes," replied Belle. "And you look," said Willie. "Unattractive," said Belle. Willie's eyes widened. He was very bewildered. Why would she say something like that? She is beautiful. He had feelings for her. He loved her. What happened when he left? His face turned into anger. Belle looked at him, worried. He didn't look like himself. "Is Willie okay?" Belle asked herself. She didn't know if to ask him or let him cool down first. Just then, Willie looked at the bell. His eyes were full of water. He was about to cry. Belle has never seen a man cry before. Willie touched her hand. Belle looked up at him. A couple of minutes had passed, and they were still looking at each other. Willie broke the silence. "Belle, did something happen when I was gone?" he asked. Belle gazed at Willie. She knew if she told him, he would get provoked. Especially since he told his father, if anything happens to Belle, I would disown you as my father. And father pleaded to her about not telling Willie what has happened. Her eyes started to water. Willie noticed, and he walked her to a carriage. He helped her get in, and then he got in after her. He closed the door. And the carriage started to move. Willie sat opposite Belle. Willie looked at Belle. Her head was down. "Belle," said Willie. Belle looked up. "What?" she asked. "I know that something's up," he replied. Willie was getting angry now. Why would she tell him that something is wrong? He knows something is up. He didn't want to do this, but he'll force it out of her, even though he hasn't seen her for a long time. He wanted to know what happened when he was gone. The carriage was getting closer to the house. Belle knew she should tell him before they got home. Okay, when you left, your father remarried, said Belle. Willie knew it. He knew that his father couldn't resist as long nothing had happened to Belle. He won't get as angry that he should. He looked at Belle. "You did the right thing," he said, although he could tell that Belle was resentful. The only thing that was on his mind was that he can't wait to lecture his father.